Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast. Oh, the tragic killing of Austin Metcalf. It's a heartbreaker. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Welcome back. Another edition of the Right Guys podcast. My name is Max McGuire here with Mr. Producer Josh Hammerling. This is in the news. I don't know how much this is in the news nationally. It's definitely in the news in Texas because it happened here in Texas.
Yeah, in Texas, yeah.
This is it's a really tragic story. This young man, Austin Metcalf, was stabbed. It sounds like stabbed in the heart, stabbed in the chest. At a track meet, at a high school track meet, by an assailant, Carmelo Anthony, not to be confused with the basketball player.
No, Carmelo with a K. Carmelo with a K.
And what set this all off was Carmelo Anthony with a K. It still feels so weird to say.
I know, it does. Because I used to work for the Nuggets during the Carmelo Anthony years. When I heard the story, I was like, it's not Carmelo. Please don't be Carmelo.
It's so awkward. So Carmelo Anthony, the student, and we're deliberately not gonna talk about race or anything, though we will get into that in a little later because a lot of people have made it about race. He was somewhere where he wasn't supposed to be. So at this track meet, there were tents set up so that each school's competitors could sit under their tent, get it out of the shade. If it was raining, get out of the rain, right? It's their tent. School's tent. Carmelo Anthony was in a different school's tent. Wasn't supposed to be there. Had no right to be there. He just wanted to sit in the shade, sit out of the elements. Austin Metcalf told me he had to leave. You're not on the track team. You don't get to sit in our in our tent. Yeah. And then back and forth words ensued. Basically, you want me to leave, make me. And then something to the tune of, touch me and see what happens. Then Carmelo Anthony said something, and we'll read the police report, something to the tune of, punch me and see what happens. Austin Metcalf, according to reports, put his hand on Carmelo Anthony's shoulder to remove him from the tent he wasn't supposed to be in. And then Carmelo Anthony, in one of the great modern examples of restraint, went into his bag, grabbed a knife, and stabbed the kid in the chest, killing him. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. It's heartbreaking. Like I see this, and I'm terrified for when my kids get older and they go to track meets. As someone who I played football in high school, and there was one game in particular where we were playing an inner city team, and the inner city team didn't like the score at the end, and we had to hide under the bleachers because there were rumors they wanted to kill us.
Oh, so my.
Yeah. So that was fun at the time. We had two people on our team. I went to Princeton High School in New Jersey, and what would happen is that good athletes who lived in other cities like Trenton would they would have a relative who lives in Princeton, and then they would make that their official address so that they could get out of the Trenton schools and into the Princeton schools, which Princeton University, much better school district. The problem is when you take kids like that out of the inner city and you put them into Princeton, they don't leave all of their baggage behind. So we actually had a member of our team. I think he was a member of it. He was. I think they both brothers were. Got stabbed and killed in the streets of Princeton. Yeah.
Oh.
Gang violence, right?
Oh my God.
So I look at this. That's part of the reason I went there for 1 year and I left. Got out of Dodge. Transferred. This hits home because I haven't experienced teammate got stabbed and killed, so that was kind of rough. But having to hide under the bleachers, it hits close to home. Like I kind of know what a lot of those people would be feeling. Other players. What has been shocking to me has been watching. I'm just going to say it, liberals and to a large extent the African American community rallying in support of the killer. And the excuse that they're giving is that I'm arguing with people online. It's really getting annoying. The excuses that I'm hearing are that white people made this about race, which
What?
the skin color makes no sense. You can't stab someone in the chest because they're trying to take you out of a tent you're not supposed to be in. That white people never care when black people are wrongfully killed or hurt by the police, which isn't true.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't want anybody. That happened to anyone.
And we're starting to hear an actual argument from them that Carmelo Anthony was acting in self-defense. And I guess we can do a little bit of just a refresher. Remember, these are the same people, to a large extent, who looked at this photo of Gage Grosskreutz pointing a gun, right, at a young man, and they concluded that that young man did not have a legal right to shoot him in self-defense.
Remember that one.
So these are the same people who looked at this photo and said having a gun pointed at you doesn't justify a self-defense shooting. They are now claiming that having someone put their hand on your shoulder to escort you out of a tent you're not supposed to be in justifies stabbing someone in the chest, stabbing someone in the heart. I think from a top-down view, I think we can all say that they fundamentally don't understand self-defense.
Yeah.
What lawful self-defense entails. Is that fair?
It's totally fair, because looking at this, man, there's so much that went bad, right? First off, I hope they just asked him to leave, right? And if he was being belligerent, we don't have the video of the scene. We don't know what kind of scuff up started, or the jawing, right? We call that part the interview in like a pre-attack sort of situation. Folks will interview you, like they'll start talking, right? They're trying to create some sort of reason to distract you to come up. And it sounds to me like they had a little bit of jawing beforehand. He placed his hand on his shoulder to escort him out. Now, I don't know if he was like yanking on him or stuff like that, but he's asking you to leave. Mm-hmm. Perhaps you should leave. And if you don't, and you start mouthing off to someone, now you've got essentially a fight has started. Like it's fight with the talk. But if somebody puts a hand on you and you pull a knife and you stab them and kill them, you've just escalated that fight to a point where it doesn't belong. I teach people all the time, like if a knife comes out, and you have a reasonable fear that could create death or great bodily harm, you can defend yourself with legal or lethal intent, right? At that point, you are allowed to protect yourself. And that is the standard that most counties, most states meet. As soon as that deadly weapon comes out, putting your hands on somebody, I don't think rises to that level, right? Because there's no punches. I'm not aware of any kicks, punches, screams. You could yell at somebody. You can actually be in a self-defense situation where it's nothing but a simple assault, and you can't go to a higher level of force. You must meet it. You cannot exceed it generally, right? So, unless there's one or two people.
So, unless there's multiple assailants, unless there's a significant size difference, because the standard is reasonableness. Mm-hmm. Whether it would be reasonable for someone looking at all of these details to conclude that someone posed a imminent threat of either serious bodily harm or death to you or others.
That imminence is important.
Imminence is important. Imminence is not immediate. A lot of time people will substitute immediate with imminent. They're not synonyms. They're close. Mm-hmm. Immediate means it's going to happen right then and there. Imminent means it's going to happen shortly. So let's break down those different parts. The reasonableness. If rational people look at this, specifically in a jury of your peers or in a prosecutor's office, look at this and can put themselves in your shoes and say, yeah, I could see how he would feel that way.
Yeah.
That's the reasonableness. If you present your case to a bunch of people devoid of bias or anything like that, and they say, what are you doing? You can't do that. That's failed the reasonableness standard, right?
For the most part. Mm-hmm.
So the imminent means that you have to be afraid that something is going to escalate to the point where you're going to need to defend yourself. Not necessarily immediately, but you have to say, based on everything I'm seeing, I have a reason to believe this is going to get bad very shortly. Maybe that means he draws a gun. Maybe that means he says he has a gun. I've been arguing with this idiot on Twitter today. I can't stand him. But it's hard to give up. It's very fun to argue with these people. Talking about the Jordan Neely killing of Daniel Penny in the subway in New York, and what he's like, oh, it wasn't immediate. Well, it was imminent. One of the reasons that Penny got off is that Neely said out loud, "I'm going to kill people, and I don't care if I go to jail." Right? Then he started acting aggressively, throwing stuff, lunging at people.
Yeah.
A reasonable person in that situation, hearing him say, "I'm going to kill people," and then seeing his behavior escalating aggressively, a reasonable person could take him at his word. Right?
And you should. If somebody's telling you that they're going to kill you to your face and they're giving you pre-fight indicators, believe them.
Yes.
Believe them.
Yes.
Believe them.
So in this situation, Austin Metcalf telling someone to leave and even putting his hand on your shoulder, even grabbing your shoulder, even trying to pull you out of a tent. Nothing I've seen, and we'll go through the police report in a little bit, nothing I've seen would have a reasonable person conclude that Carmelo Anthony should have felt like his life was in danger. Now, it's possible for someone to be mentally ill. It's possible for someone to be deluded, deranged, where they might feel that they are at risk, in danger, when they really aren't. They could be schizophrenic, right? There's lots of ways that someone could feel like that, but that's not reasonable, right? They might get off with a not guilty by reason of insanity, but it isn't a not guilty because it's a good shoot or it's a justified homicide, right? Then the last bit is that you have to see that there's imminent escalation of either serious bodily harm or death to yourself or others.
Which can happen fast.
It can happen fast, but getting in an argument with someone, you can't just say, "Oh, well, I assumed it was going to get worse."
Yeah.
There has to be some evidence to suggest that you're going to get there quickly, imminently. And I haven't seen anything in the record, which we're about to go through. I'll go ahead and pull it up. I haven't seen anything in the record to suggest. And that's how I like to go through these things. The left's like, "Oh, you just care about race." No, I put myself in their shoes. And I say, what would I do if I was in this position? What would I do if I was in this position? And if I can't genuinely say, yeah, I could see myself afraid, I want nothing to do with it, right? Before we get into that, another really interesting thing I've seen, and this is the media, this is the mainstream media doing their thing. These are some of the photos that are floating around of Carmelo Anthony. On top, that's his mugshot. You have him holding, this looks like a toy gun, but still a toy gun. And then you have him flipping off the camera, holding a lighter. These are the things circulating. It's entirely possible in this day and age that these are fabricated, but these are what's been circulating. I do find it very interesting that with the mugshot present, the photo that so many news outlets are running with is this photo.
Yeah.
I don't think I have ever seen someone who has confessed to stabbing someone in the heart with a knife get such a glow up in the media with them running this school picture in a nice blazer and tie. I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's not surprising though, because they love to inject some sort of any sort of bias they can throw into a news story. It feels like sometimes, because I really think they want to create drama with the news stories.
Yeah,
because more drama means more ratings. More ratings mean more watches. That means more money for the network.
Yeah,
which blows my mind. It's a really nice picture of him, and I feel bad for this kid. I wish he had made a better choice.
I wish he made a better choice. And as we read this, there is a point where he asks if the other kid's going to be okay.
It's
but
too late. Yeah,
it's
I
too
mean, he made
late.
a choice, and it's a too late choice.
You stabbed him in the heart. So here he is, Carmelo Sincere Anthony. That is a
That's his. Okay, that's his real name.
not
Okay.
not a very true middle name, but Sincere. Carmelo Sincere Anthony, born Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 17 years old,
Oh, jeez.
5'9", 130 pounds. He's a
Has
cashier at HEB.
is that like a
Yeah,
convenience
it's a
store or
grocery
something?
store. Grocery store. He started working there literally that week.
Oh, jeez.
Um, so that's interesting. Booked on murder charges. Um, so let's go ahead and read this bit. Let me make my screen bigger so I can read it.
Yeah.
This is the school resource officer on 4/2/2025 at 10:01 hours. I, Staley School Resource Officer E. Cortez, heard over the radio dispatch call out a stabbing call at David Kuykendall Stadium. FPD call notes indicated that an athlete was stabbed. The suspect was reported as being a black male wearing a gray hoodie and blue sweatpants. I immediately left my office and ran across the Staley Middle School parking lot towards the southwest entrance into the stadium. As I entered the stadium, 2 high school age students informed me that the victim was on the north end of the stadium by the bleachers under a Memorial High School tent. I did not identify these students. Next, I proceeded towards the north end of the stadium on foot. As I got close to the north end, I could see Memorial High School tent with multiple individuals under the tent. Once I arrived onto the north side bleachers, an adult male who was on the track pointed out the suspect. I was not able to identify the witness. The individual that was pointed out to me was a black male wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt and dark colored Nike pants. The suspect at this point was on the track on the north end. There was a chain link fence that separated me from the suspect. I gave the suspect instructions to keep his hands in the air. During this time, the suspect said verbally out loud, "I was protecting myself." It should be noted that I had not questioned him about the incident when he made that comment. That's important because he hadn't been read his rights. He hadn't been Mirandized, right? So he can't then turn around and say, "Oh, well, that's not admissible because I wasn't Mirandized." I asked him if he had any weapons. He said no. I patted him down for weapons while we walked along the fence, and I did not locate any on his person. I instructed the male to continue walking along the fence, which he complied, towards an area where there was an opening in the fence that led off the track. While walking off the track, the suspect also said he put his hands on me. I then detained the suspect in handcuffs behind his back and had him sit on the ground. Officer A. Ricci arrived at the scene. I conducted another pat down and then searched his person after he gave me consent. No weapons were located. While the suspect sat on the ground, I advised that I had the alleged suspect. The suspect then responds and says, quote, "I am not alleged, I did it." End quote.
Man.
Next,
Man.
Officer Ricci and I walked patrol, yada, yada, yada. As we were walking to the squad car, the subject was emotional and said, "He put his hands on me. I told him not to." I did not question the suspect about the incident while he was escorted to the patrol vehicle. Again, important because he wasn't Mirandized. This is admissible. He's just offering it up. I searched his person once again, and I had him sit in the backseat area. While the suspect was in the back seat, I noticed fresh blood on his left middle finger. I verbally acknowledged I saw the blood out loud, so I would be captured on my body-worn camera. It should also be noted that the suspect asked me, "Is he going to be okay?"
Oh my gosh!
While he was in the backseat. What are you thinking as I scroll just to try and find the next bit?
Well, I mean, there's no weapon on him, so that's either been tossed away or put away. He's obviously scared because he's trying to say that I was defending myself. And I don't think he understands what that means. It seems to me like he's awful scared at this point. There's a lot of fear going on here. There's a lot of fear.
Yeah. And I'm trying to find the part where they find the knife. And you can find this is all on the internet now.
Yeah. So he threw the knife away. He tried to hide the evidence. All right. So that right there isn't that's a big red flag for anybody investigating. Like, where's the weapon? Because
here it is. Sergeant Otis walked up to the visitor bleacher and observed the victim being treated by Frisco Fire Department personnel and also the athletic trainers. The weather began to turn and began to heavily downpour rain at this time. Some of the FISD staff moved the memorial tent to cover the victim and the FFD personnel. Sergeant Otis began using a city-issued phone to snap crime scene photos to preserve as much of the scene as possible due to the weather, and the large gathering of people that were involved in the incident. Other officers began to set up a crime scene tape, moving non-essential personnel out of the immediate area. The officers on scene were informed that the knife was used was tossed and was still believed to be somewhere close.
Oh my gosh.
Eventually, one of the witnesses said they remember seeing it on the bleachers still. Officer Schals was able to locate the knife. It was located between rows 9 and 10 near seat 30. Look at how specific this is. The rain began to come down again heavily, and it was determined that instead of moving the knife, the officers would cover it with a large blue tarp. And you can see that there. They covered the knife with the tarp.
And he threw that away in a panic because if he was real, I mean, that it was just chucked away.
Wow. Yeah. I just lost my place now.
You're in the middle there.
Yeah. Otis is preserving the immediate crime scene as much as possible. At around this time, Officer Wenzel had the crime scene log, yada, yada, yada. Download the photos he took so they could be saved for preservation of evidence. And that's basically his report. And it's very similar for the other officers.
Yeah. And that's the initial on-scene report, right? They showed up. This is what they observed. This is how they dealt with it. This is the evidence that was collected and where it was found.
Yes.
Right. So that's the first part of the narrative post-incident.
The tossed knife. If you take any self-defense course, if you take any concealed carry course, one of the things that they teach you is that even if you have a right to neutralize a threat, right? Let's say someone breaks into your house and you have to fire one shot to put them down so they're no longer posing a threat. The minute you go over them, you kick away their gun, you are generally supposed to apply pressure to the wound. As long as you're safe, call 911. Take some proactive steps to not only protect yourself, but ultimately to save the person you just shot, because you have a right to self-defense. You have the right to neutralize a threat to you. That is not the same thing as you have a right to make sure someone is dead. Right? And so if you neutralize a threat and they are still alive, generally, I mean, I guess you could claim I'm still afraid he could hurt me. I wanted to stay away from him. But generally, it's expected that you call 911 to both report the shooting, right? So that you can get processed and everything, but also so that paramedics can save the guy you just shot. Because again, your right to self-defense is a right to stop someone from hurting you. It is not a right to make someone dead. Did I explain that right?
To some degree, you want to also preserve as much evidence as you can, because let's say they got hurt and then they can't find the murder knife or whatever that you're trying to claim was used against you in the attempt, and there's not a weapon there. That would be really bad for you. But you do have a right to neutralize the threat, and that neutralize means if they hit the ground, they're bleeding, they're not moving anymore. Generally you just don't want to put 10 more into them, because now that looks really, really bad. But they can move at any time. And if their weapon's still next to them, you have to be super vigilant. Now, what you're not required to do, at least in my county, is to render life-saving measures.
Yeah.
And if you do dial 911, that's one of the things they call you, because most of those people are on a script. They'll ask you, are they okay? Can you count the number of people breaking in your house? Can you render aid to the person that's just been harmed? You're not required to do that, but you don't want to look like a bloodthirsty vigilante once you've eliminated that threat. It doesn't look good. It won't do you any help.
Yeah.
Right. But you have every right, once they have met that level of deadly force, you have a right to meet it with deadly force. It just doesn't give you the right to become a vigilante.
But that right disappears when the threat's neutralized. So let's say someone breaks into your house and you fire one shot into their leg. You hit them in the leg. They say, ah! They throw the gun flies away. They're on the ground in pain. You don't have the right to walk up and shoot them in the back of the head.
Yeah, right? And the way it's described to me is the law sees the fight. So they come up, one fight starts, and that fight ends. Once that fight ended and you were to go back at them, you have now executed that person. So yes, technically you could be tried for manslaughter, right?
Yes.
Because it's not premeditated at that point.
But if, let's say, the gun falls out of his hand, flies across the floor. He goes down, and then you see him reaching into his waistband. That's a different threat, right?
Right. Well, the threat has not been completely eliminated. Like the fight continues at that point.
Keeps going. Right? Even and like this is the thing with the Jordan Neely, Daniel Penny thing in the subway. People are like, why would he keep them in the headlock? You don't know who this guy is. You don't know what he has in his pockets. Yeah. You're behind him, holding him in a headlock. All it takes is him to wiggle one of his hands away from the other guy holding his hands, reach into his pocket, grab a knife, a pen, anything.
Trained that last night.
Yep. Stab you in your femoral artery, and then you're dead. Right?
Trained it last night. It took me less than half a second to grab my weapon, and I just started putting knife attacks right into the person I'm training with leg. And we use a foam knife. Like they were bleeding out. At that point, they had seconds to start covering that up, right? So yes, I mean, the threat still existed at that moment. It was still imminent.
This is what people don't always understand. The minute that someone poses a threat to you, this isn't like a shades of gray situation. The minute you've reasonably recognized that someone is posing a threat to your life or posing a threat of serious bodily injury or for other people, right? It kind of is a binary situation. They either pose a threat to you or they don't pose a threat to you. Mm-hmm. And until a reasonable person would say they pose no threat, you can still presume that they pose at least some threat, right? And so, you've shot someone in the leg. They've thrown their gun. But you are not obligated to assume they are then unarmed, right?
No.
This is very much a don't trust and always verify situation. So again, because I'm just arguing with it's in my head. This subway attack, Daniel Penny acquitted. Trump brought him to the Army Navy game, which was crazy. He has every right to render him unconscious. And a police officer is told not to do that. Why? Police officer has handcuffs, right? Police officer has zip ties. Police officer has rules. Police officer has less than lethals. They have maybe pepper spray or stun gun. They have other ways to render someone completely neutralized without killing them, right? So they've said, no, it's too dangerous to chokehold. You'll choke them out. They're rendered unconscious, too dangerous. A subway rider doesn't have all those things at their disposal. No. So the minute he says, I'm going to kill you, until he is either dead, unconscious, or completely like hogtied, right? Yeah. You have the right to presume that if he's still near you and you have no reasonable means of escape, you have the right to presume that he is still a threat.
And you should.
And you should.
Yeah.
And you absolutely should.
I was going to say, in that Daniel Penny case, have you ever tried to hold somebody down for a long, extended period of time? Do you know how exhausting that is for the layperson?
Yeah.
Even people who train all the time. Like, you gas out in seconds. Most people gas out in about 30 seconds when you sit there and you grapple with them, right?
Yeah.
So people have said that. Well, why didn't he just hold him down? Why didn't he just keep him still? It's like, have you ever tried to keep a normal person
I can't even hold my kids down.
Have you tried to hold a 5-year-old on the ground long enough, right? You can't do it. Let alone
I hold my 4-year-old down. Male. I'm much bigger. He bites me. I'm like, get out of here, you little gremlin.
I know, right? So,
get out of here.
And there's no guarantee you're going to be successful holding that person down, right? Like, you have to act to preserve your own life. You have to. Yeah. Otherwise, you lose yours.
Let me ask you this, because with that case and this case, there seems to be this groundswell of support, to a lesser extent liberals, but to a greater extent the African American community. They seem to always just come out, even when, and not all of them, but like African American far left Democrats, liberals, even when all of the evidence points to like a bad shoot or all of the evidence points to unreasonableness, they always come out. They always seem to come out like, this guy raised $350,000.
Yeah, for legal fees.
For his legal fees. I don't know if he's going to get it. Usually, if you're accused of murder, GoFundMe doesn't let you fundraise.
Yeah,
that's another double-sided thing, right? Conservatives get their account shut down instantly. His was up for half a week at the very least. I don't know what it is that far left members of the African American community seem so eager to defend what is objectively indefensible. Like I really struggle, and I've been going through social media, and I don't want to paint with such a broad brush to say everyone in like the African American community or every liberal is doing it, but it's a lot of them.
Well, it's that there's this, I hate to say it, but there's this like a presumed moral high horse that you get when something happens to African American individual or Black individual in this country. And I don't know where that started. It seems like no matter what occurs, there's this groundswell of support that happens from the left in that. And it's because they're trying to, is it political points they're trying to score? Are they trying to get political capital for it? Are they trying to look like they're part of the Black community? And I've seen it too, and I never understood it, because if you were to juxtaposition those things and reverse the roles, if I was to support a white kid who stabbed a Black kid, right, I would be called a racist, and everything along that side of it would be called racist at that point. But somehow it loses that racist element when it's a Black person, like in this case, a Black person stabs a white person, right? There's some sort of presumed innocence for this Black person that a white person doesn't seem to get these days, at least in the realm of public opinion and in far left areas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Maybe I don't understand the whole thing, which I'm sure I don't.
I mean, let's just take this from also a 1,000-foot view, right? What was this all about? One person was where he wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
The other told him you're not allowed to be here, tried to move him, and then he stabbed him in the heart and killed him. And telling the police that's okay because he put hands on me. That's not the legal standard, but I don't know. Is that the legal standard in the African American community? I don't know, right?
That would be, but I ask, is there a cultural component
standard
to this where the culture is like, if somebody hurts you, you gotta take care of business and kill them, right? Is that something that's happening? I don't know, because I'm not part of the African American community, but if it is, like, that's a really odd place to be thinking, right? Like, it's a immediate escalation of deadly intent, deadly actions, you know?
Well,
I don't know, maybe it's, I don't know.
The first thing prosecutors are going to try and ask and figure out is, why did you go to a regional track meet and feel that you needed to bring a knife?
I was going to say, I knew a guy that did 4 years of track in high school, 4 years of track in college, and he says in a post, never once did I ever take a knife or a weapon. I took food, I took water, I took a change of clothes, right?
Yeah.
All the stuff I'd need. So did he feel like he had to carry a knife everywhere he goes? Like, there's another component we don't understand there.
I would put track and field and probably swim meets as the two scholastic after school like sport activities where you would be least likely to need a firearm.
I know. I knew where you're going with that. I'm like, yeah.
Like, I could see baseball maybe, but
football,
but you have bats. Like,
yeah.
Basketball, I could see it depending on who you're playing. Football, maybe. I could see it depending on who you're playing. I couldn't even fathom it. Like hockey, I couldn't see hockey. Like, just knowing like who goes to a hockey game. I've never gone to a hockey game, saw like the metal detectors and said, "Oh shit, how am I going to protect myself in here?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've never gone to like a Bruins game or a Rangers or a Devils game and be like, "Oh man, how am I going to defend myself? That I have to keep my gun in my lockbox. Like, how am I going to get out of this place alive?"
And like this area of Texas, is it known for violence and crime like that? Is it? I mean, is that probably a reason why? You know, I'm just trying to think, why the heck? You know, because that question is going to come up. Why were you carrying a knife there? Right? And then I know people that just carry knives in general because they're a useful tool. I know people that carry them. I know, at a track meet, like he would probably be expelled from school if he brought a knife to school in any capacity, right? So that right there tells you that he knows he probably shouldn't have it. And then to use it, like, oh, this poor kid.
I mean, this is just Google. Give me real quick results. Mm-hmm. So take this with an AI grain of salt. Frisco has been recognized as the safest city in America. Violent crime rate. Frisco has a low violent crime rate, 95 crimes per 100,000 residents, ranking as the fourth lowest in the nation.
Oh my gosh. So
Property crimes, 901 property crimes per 100,000 residents, ranking as the sixth lowest in the nation.
because if I'm a defense lawyer,
it is between the safest city in America and like the top 5, top 10 safest cities in America.
So I'm a defense lawyer. Well, my client had to take a knife because he felt threatened by what?
By
Like
the
that would
safest
be
city in America.
so that would be really like that's a hard case to make. It doesn't mean they won't make it, right? And they're going to pull out a lot of crazy stops because a defense lawyer's there to make sure that they try everything. Right?
Oh yeah, and if I was a defense lawyer, I don't want to give them help or anything, but you'd say this was a regional track meet. Just because it was in the safest city in America doesn't mean that all the other people attending live in the safest city in America, right? That would be an argument, whether that matters or not. Under Texas law, I read this. I was shocked. If you bring it into a school, that's different. But on school grounds, under Texas law, as long as the blade is less than 5.5 inches,
really,
technically, on school grounds, it is not a state crime for a minor to carry it. A pocket knife.
Wow. That's a big knife. Are you talking about the overall length of the knife or just the blade?
The blade.
Holy crap, that's a big it's Texas, dude. It's all bigger in Texas. Like in Colorado, it's 3 inches, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's like 5.5 inches. You're getting into like Rambo knife territory, like Bowie knife territory. Like, it's very, very
have to
big.
Carry it. Yeah.
Yes. Like almost like machete, like Tanto kind of.
Oh yeah,
lengths.
like it's a mini sword. Like I know I'm being exaggeratory here, but it's a big knife. That's a big knife.
It is. So that's where state law goes. And if you're a minor, you're technically allowed to carry a blade less than 5.5 inches. And as long as you don't bring it into the school, like into across the threshold into a building, right?
Wow.
You have a pocket knife because like the alternative is you're at like a football game, you grab your keys out of your car, your 17-year-old, and you have a Swiss Army knife on your keychain, right? Texas law is designed to make sure you're not a felon for having a Swiss Army knife on your keychain.
Yeah.
Do people even still use those? I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
Swiss
Army knives.
Not like they used to be. Because MacGyver is not a good show anymore. I mean, MacGyver's the whole reason that Swiss Army. I bought one because I wanted to be like MacGyver. I still have it, but I never use it. No.
Yeah, I just have a multi-tool.
Multi-tool is what kind of took everything over. So, all right. So he's carrying a knife. Did he meet that standard? Like, was that knife under 3 inches? We
don't know. They haven't shown pictures of it yet. I haven't seen pictures of it yet. Yeah. The police report is just the written police report. They filed the charges yesterday, so the indictment will probably have pictures, and we'll have a better idea once that kind of gets put into court. There's kind of they read the charges, not guilty, guilty, arraignment. Then it'll trickle out to us. I haven't seen it. I looked a little bit this morning. I didn't see anything. I asked AI. They said it hasn't come out yet, but again, AI grain of salt. We'll have to see. But it is very interesting that there's a subset of the left on the internet saying, the knife was less than 5.49 inches, so he did nothing wrong. Again, if you are jumping through hoops to defend someone who stabbed a kid in the heart because he was told to leave a tent that he wasn't allowed to be in, you got issues.
So I'm just did a small cursory X search for Carmelo Anthony and the stuff going up, and boy, there seems to be a groundswell of major support.
It's weird.
By
Isn't
the
it weird?
African American community. Like some of them said, he's now the poster child for Stand Your Ground laws and FAFO. And it's like, you really don't understand how that's working, do you?
It's weird.
It's crazy.
This is how I'm interpreting it. Liberals, especially liberals in the African American community, seem to be so pissed off long term about people they hope would be in prison for a long time all of a sudden getting off because of stand your ground rules.
Mm-hmm.
Like George Zimmerman, for example, right? They look at George Zimmerman as the great injustice of our time, that he had no right to shoot. What was that kid? Trayvon Martin?
Trayvon Martin.
He had no right to shoot Trayvon Martin, even as Trayvon Martin was on top of him, hitting him. No right to shoot him. And they look at that. The way talking to them, arguing with them, debating with them, they seem to believe that the right to self-defense, stand your ground, has been abused by people to get out of pretty much anything. And that it's almost like a get out of jail free card just to kill anyone. I mean, you kind of see that kind of thinking in this kid's speaking with police, saying it was self-defense. It was self-defense. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this kid doesn't have any real self-defense, like training, like any real self-defense, like courses, or he hasn't been taught it. That it's just how he's learned about it in the culture.
Yeah.
And it seems to be in the African-American community, especially the liberal African-American community, they see stand your ground laws as a get out of jail free card. And almost like, you got George Zimmerman, so now we got you with this, which is weird.
Right.
It is very weird. And very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Because there are those that want some sort of race thing to happen. They're going to use this as like bait to go after others who might want to start something, right? For a lot of these people who want race wars and stuff like that, this becomes like a new tool in the box, or at least a new feather to say in the cap, saying this is why we need to have this, right? And the other piece is like, we don't know the words that were exchanged. Were there witnesses to that? Because if it comes out that they were using even racial epithets at each other, it doesn't mean it rises to. It doesn't rise to a level of being able to stab somebody if they put their hands on you, right? You can call somebody pretty much anything you want to. They don't have to like it, right? That becomes battery, I think, when they use their voice, assault when you use your hands. But we don't know what was said. We don't know if this was one-sided. Again, if somebody puts your hand on you, did he politely ask him to leave, or did he ask him to leave like a real jerk? And does Carmelo Anthony, how does he interpret this?
Yeah. I mean, right? the way it's being explained is that Metcalf was acting a little bit like a jerk, and that he was basically saying, "This isn't your tank, get out." And basically, Carmelo Anthony said, "It sounds like he was like, if you want me out, make me, and see what happens if you touch me." Oh. Kids in this situation. Like, I've been in a situation like this.
17-year-old boys doing that? Yeah, it happens all the time.
Get up, make me. Yeah, make me. At no point does it end in someone getting stabbed in the heart.
Not when I was growing up.
Not ever. I mean, it's not a reasonable response.
Oh my gosh.
Let me show you this.
There's people out here that are asking, like, when Carmelo is found guilty of murder and his family is sued, there's going to be a lot of people who are suddenly way less pissed about the Give Sammy Go campaign. And then there's other people that are asking, like, or at least making statements like they're waiting for him to be called guilty so they can start something? Like a riot? Like, why would you even do that? That's insane. And it's really odd.
Here's this guy. Hunt, LL the Jug King. He says, of course, when a baby racist dies, they try to paint him as a saint and attach heartbreaking stories to them like they ain't evil. Free Carmelo Anthony. Pray for him to win his trial. I have gone through all of the record. There is nothing to suggest that he was racist in this interaction, that he's a baby racist, that he is evil. This is
race baiting? Is that what this is?
This is like, how do you, this is going to sound weird, how do you live in a country like this?
Yeah.
Like we talk about like whether this American experiment with democracy, how long will it last? When one kid, just take race out of it, when one kid stabs another kid in the heart,
Yeah.
and the answer is, oh, he had it coming because of the crimes of his race, right? Realize there are people like this. You're going to the grocery store, you're in the checkout line with people who think like this.
Yeah.
Right? You're at the doctor's office in the waiting room with people who think like this. This is crazy to me.
I know. And it's everywhere. And then they go to social media and they start posting about it. They start communicating about it and you see it. And like, how do you, it's like they immediately painted this white kid racist because of just the color of his skin. That's it. Like, he's white, so therefore he has to be racist. He killed this poor innocent kid who stabbed him with a knife. It's wild.
This is the
unbelievable.
This is the next meme that's going around. Rosa Parks, guy behind her, saying you're in the wrong seat. Austin Metcalf, you're in the wrong seat. Basically saying that Austin Metcalf, basically saying you have to leave. This isn't your tent. You're not in the school. This is our reserved area. Is the same to stopping Rosa Parks from sitting anywhere she wants on the bus.
That's insane. Oh my gosh. What? Oh my God. And this is like, I mean, this cheapens what Rosa Parks did. This just rates bait on the left. I mean, that's an insane statement, man. I'm actually really offended by that one right there. Wow.
It's
Wow. And this is what perpetuates on the socials. You know what I mean? This is what's being shared between people.
Here's the next one. All right, this is Black Revolutionary Now. Whew. Wow. We will make sure that justice is served in thus clear-cut self-defense case, and our little brother, Carmelo Anthony, is set free. These white supremacists think they could come and bully black people, and we ain't going to do nothing about it. Hashtag New Day. Hold your ground, black people. And it says 3.7 GPA track star Carmelo Anthony was attacked at a school event. Now he faces murder charges for self-defense. And look at the disparity in the pictures. Just like we talked earlier, that the confessed killer, whether he gets away, like confessed based on the police report, he said, I did it. Whether he gets away with this self-defense argument, I think it's bullshit. Versus the victim. Look at the difference. He gets the suit and tie. The other guy gets the t-shirt.
It's made to be is this a political tool? I mean, the person posted sounds like they've got a real chip on their shoulder against white people to begin with.
You think?
And then they're using this to sell or perpetuate the narrative of racism in America still from white people on black people. And that's the pony they're going to ride on this. And to call that self-defense, like there's nothing here. See, and the other thing is they've already assumed that no matter what happened, it is self-defense. They can't even think of for a moment that this might be a crime committed by Carmelo Anthony against the other kid, right? Like, I mean, they already come from that position. So no matter the outcome, right or wrong, they'll just say, oh my gosh.
They've taken the photo that we all look at and we say that, well, that's messed up. They've taken it and they are now, I just lost it. Where'd it go? Here it is. And they've now turned it into a cartoon and they are using this as like supporting him. It's getting weird, Josh.
This is insane, man. Like, I don't know what to say here. This is really strange stuff. And there's more of it. It's not like it's slowing down, I've noticed. Like, it's getting wilder and wilder out there.
Don Mulio, this is Carmelo Anthony. He is a good kid who defended himself against a suspected racist.
There's no evidence of that so far.
While defending himself, he fatally stabbed the suspected racist. Carmelo Anthony doesn't hate white people, and he was not looking for trouble. Free him. And if there's a GoFundMe, I got $50.
Wow. Well, what about for the funeral for the poor kid that died? Shouldn't people be raising the money for that? Because there was a victim here, and that victim's on the ground. Like, they're dead. That's insane. A
I
suspected
mean,
racist? Why is there assumption of racism in this? Where's it
it's
coming from?
we don't have enough time to cover this. We have to cut this off before an hour. We're
Yeah, I know.
pre-recording this. Uh, this is Mike Baggs on X. Community Notes is working overtime trying to silence Black creators. We are watching in real time how hard they go when we start gaining momentum. This Carmelo Anthony case has codified the new generation of new free Black thinkers.
That's part of how they want people thinking, is to be able to use knives on others.
The word that I'm not seeing new free Black thinkers. I'm seeing a word that I'm told we're allowed to use again, but I still don't want to use it.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of fools, a lot of idiots, some simple folk.
I want to use the R word, but I can't.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm told back.
This
but
is
I'm not going to be the first one to run
Max,
it.
is this like a delusion for people that are supporting this? Because it really doesn't line up with the facts that have been presented so far. We're going to get more of those as time moves on, and we get the testimonies of people that were there and the witnesses. Were there any other witnesses that they've accounted for? I don't think we've seen that stuff.
Other witnesses, they're starting to get that testimony. It's almost like, you know what this reminds me of? It's the stakes are so much higher. But I went to school in Massachusetts, and while I was there were a couple of different cheating scandals that came out about the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
And I had one friend who was a diehard Boston sports fan, Pat's sports fan. Like,
I've met him.
You could literally show him a photo of Tom Brady stabbing someone in the heart, and he would say, "I bet that guy had it coming." Right? Like,
yeah, I've met those guys. Yeah.
Like Deflategate, they were deflating the footballs. Oh no, that's BS. No,
they were just getting ready for
when they were caught filming other people's practices. Oh no, that couldn't possibly have happened. They will defend them to the end because they are fans, diehard fans. It's almost like that's the best way I can describe what I'm seeing here. It's almost like this is now a team game. There's the Whites, and then there's the Black community. And whenever there's an interracial crime, everyone runs to their corner to defend their team. I don't do that. I look objectively at the facts. But I'm seeing from the people defending Carmelo Anthony, when it's so obvious, that this was not good, not a good shoot, not a good stabbing at all, right?
Yeah.
Like, it feels like it's a team sport, right? And the one example I'll talk about is Philando Castile. Do you remember him?
Philando Castile. Castile sounds familiar now.
He was an African-American man who was in a car lawfully with a concealed weapon, live streaming while being pulled over by police. He told police that he had a firearm. The officer said, "Don't reach for it." Castile responded, "Yeah, I know. I'm reaching for." The cop says, "Don't pull it out." He says, "I'm not pulling out." Pastor said, other person in the car says, "Not." Cop says, "Don't pull it out." Shoots him while reaching for his license. This was, by all definitions, a bad shoot. Cop got off because the way the rules are, he saw him reaching, couldn't hear him say, "I'm not going to reach for it." That happened in 2016. We covered that on Conservative Daily.
I remember now, yeah.
And we came out adamantly in defense of the African-American man because we could look at this and we could empathize.
Yeah.
that you carry in a car, you dread getting pulled over by the officer who shows up already with his hand on the gun, especially if you're in a state where you're obligated to let them know when you're carrying. You get a cop with an itchy trigger finger, you're terrified. How am I going to get my wallet when it's 8 inches away from my holster?
Yeah.
How am I going to do this without getting killed? Mm-hmm. And you can see it, you can empathize. And I mean, this was live streamed. This was live
streamed. For everyone to watch.
We played the live stream. It was brutal. And it's not like I don't want to be like the guy says, "Oh, I'm not racist. I have one black friend." Oh no, I don't only support white people when these things happen. Look at this one time I supported this, but this is just the case that comes to mind right off the top of my head. With conservatives, it's really empathizing with the people in each position, seeing who do I empathize with more, who can I reasonably understand where they'd be at. Can I see myself in a situation like that? Can I see myself feeling like I was in danger in that situation? It's not as much of a team sport, but I'm telling you, as we wrap up this episode, everyone give us a like, give us a comment, thumbs up, all that, subscribe. I am getting more and more disturbed by the team game kind of aspect of this.
Yeah.
That it makes me very uncomfortable.
And it forces people to take sides. You know what I mean? Nobody can just look at it objectively and say, as Americans, this is really terrible for everybody that was involved. The kid probably shouldn't have had a knife. One's dead. Now the other one's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, most likely from it.
No. And under Texas law, he's under 18. He cannot get the death penalty.
Wow.
He can't get life in prison.
Really?
Yeah.
Because of the age. Because he's 17. Now, could they try him as adult, or is it pretty clear cut?
The way that the prosecutor came out and said it today, it's not on the table.
Okay. Wow.
It's not something they can get.
It's just, this is sad, man. And people use it as a reason to start making people choose sides. And that's the real gross part about it, is putting you on a side, putting you on a team.
Yeah.
Wow.
Scary times. Well, that's it for this edition of the podcast. If you like the podcast, subscribe. Give us a subscribe. We're on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We're on X. Go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern. We also have the audio edition of the podcast, available everywhere audio podcasts are found. Give us a subscribe over there, even if you watch the show. That way, if you can't watch, you can listen as you go about your day, do your chores on your commute and whatnot. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back our country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand up and fight together. See you next time.